The flyer was sun-faded, practically bleached white, taped haphazardly to a telephone pole on the corner of Elm and Willow. It flapped in the late summer breeze, the edges frayed and whispering like secrets. In bold, uneven lettering, it proclaimed, "Massive yard sale. Everything must go. 14 Maple Street. Saturday." I almost didn't notice it. I was already late for my appointment, rushing past with a lukewarm latte in hand. But something, a prickling at the back of my neck, made me stop. 14 Maple Street. That house had been vacant for years. Rumors circulated among the neighborhood busybodies. Whispers of a tragedy. A family vanished. A curse. I usually dismissed such things as suburban folklore, but the unsettling stillness that clung to the place always gave me pause. Curiosity, the cat that always seemed to land me in trouble, got the better of me. "Everything must go," the flyer declared. What could possibly be left to sell after all this time? Saturday dawned with the oppressive humidity that was a hallmark of late August in our town. I told myself I was just going for a walk, a little exercise before burying myself in work. But my feet, seemingly of their own accord, turned onto Maple Street. 14 Maple Street looked different. The overgrown lawn had been manicured, the peeling paint touched up. The dilapidated porch sagged a little less. And sitting on the lawn, bathed in the eerie stillness of the morning, was a collection of objects that made my breath catch in my throat. It wasn't the usual yard sale fare of dusty toys and chipped ceramics. This was different. A Victorian-era dollhouse, its miniature inhabitants frozen in a perpetual tea party, sat on a rickety table. A tarnished silver music box, its lid slightly ajar, promised a melody I couldn't quite hear. A collection of antique mirrors, each reflecting the world with a distorted, unsettling clarity, lined one side of the lawn. And then there was the scent, a cloying sweetness, like overripe fruit mixed with something metallic and faintly wrong. It hung heavy in the air, a suffocating perfume that made my stomach churn. A woman sat behind a table draped in a black velvet cloth. She was almost unnaturally still, her posture perfect, her face hidden behind a wide-brimmed hat. She didn't look up as I approached. "Good morning," I managed, the greeting sounding thin and reedy in the oppressive silence. Her head tilted slightly. "Welcome," she said, her voice a low, gravelly rasp, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "Everything must go." I forced a smile. "Quite the collection you have. This house? It's been empty for a while, hasn't it?" She didn't answer directly. "Everything has a story," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you looking for something specific?" I glanced around, trying to appear nonchalant. The yard sale was attracting other people now, drawn by the spectacle and the strange, magnetic pull of the place. A young couple browsed through a collection of old photographs, their faces etched with a mixture of fascination and unease. A man in a worn leather jacket examined a set of antique gardening tools, his brow furrowed in concentration. I don't know," I said, finally settling on the dollhouse. "This is beautiful." "How much?" The woman didn't look at it. "It chooses its owner, not the other way around." I raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry." She finally lifted her head, the brim of her hat shifting to reveal a sliver of her face. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes, they were the color of aged blood, devoid of any warmth or humanity. "Take it," she said, her voice a barely audible hiss. "If it calls to you, it knows what you need." A shiver ran down my spine. What I needed was to get out of there. But the dollhouse, there was something undeniably compelling about it. The craftsmanship was exquisite, the tiny details meticulously rendered. And something else, a feeling of familiarity, a sense of déjà vu that tugged at the edges of my memory. "Okay," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Okay, I'll take it." She didn't smile, but a flicker of something that might have been satisfaction crossed her face. "Take it inside," she said, gesturing towards the front door of the house. "It will be happier there." I hesitated. "Inside? I thought you were selling everything out here." Everything must find its place, she said, her eyes locking on mine. Inside, the front door creaked open at my touch, revealing a hallway cloaked in shadow. The air inside was even heavier, the sweet, metallic scent intensified. I wanted to bolt, to drop the dollhouse and run as fast as I could. But something held me rooted to the spot. The hallway stretched before me, lined with portraits of people I didn't recognize, their eyes following me as I walked. The silence inside was profound, broken only by the frantic thumping of my own heart. At the end of the hallway, a doorway opened into a living room. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that pierced through the grimy windows, illuminating furniture draped in white sheets. And in the center of the room, a single rocking chair swayed gently back and forth, as if occupied by an unseen presence. I placed the dollhouse on a small table beside the rocking chair. The room seemed to breathe a sigh of contentment, the shadows deepening in the corners. Then I heard it, a faint, high-pitched giggle, coming from inside the dollhouse. I froze, every muscle in my body tensed. I told myself it was my imagination, a trick of the light, the unsettling atmosphere playing games with my mind. But then I heard it again. A giggle, followed by a whisper, "Welcome home." I backed away, stumbling over the threshold, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to get out of there. I had to get away from that house, that woman, that dollhouse. I burst out of the front door, gasping for breath, the sweet, metallic scent clinging to my clothes. The yard sale continued, the other shoppers oblivious to the horror I had just witnessed. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get them into the ignition. As I drove away, I glanced back at 14 Maple Street. The woman was still there, sitting behind her table, her face hidden behind her hat. But this time she was looking directly at me. And as I watched, the dollhouse, which I'd left inside the house, reappeared on her table. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak and groan of my apartment building sounded like footsteps, like whispers. I kept seeing the woman's eyes, the blood-red depths that seemed to see into my very soul. I spent hours researching 14 Maple Street, poring over old newspaper articles and local history websites. I discovered that the house had been the scene of a gruesome tragedy decades ago. A family of 4, a mother, a father, and 2 young daughters had been found murdered, their bodies arranged in a macabre tableau in the living room. The case had never been solved, the house left to rot, haunted by the ghosts of its past. The following days were a blur of paranoia and sleeplessness. I saw the woman everywhere, in crowds, in reflections, in the periphery of my vision. The sweet, metallic scent lingered in my apartment, no matter how much I cleaned. Then, one night, I woke up to find my apartment door open. The air was thick with the now familiar scent. And sitting in my living room, under the pale glow of the moon, was the dollhouse. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I was beyond fear, beyond reason. I was simply resigned. I walked slowly towards the dollhouse, drawn to it by an unseen force. As I got closer, I could see the tiny figures inside. They were no longer frozen in their tea party. They were moving, dancing, giggling. And then I saw her, a tiny, perfect replica of the woman from the yard sale, sitting at the head of the table, her blood-red eyes fixed on me. She raised a miniature hand and beckoned me closer. "Welcome home," she whispered. "Everything must find its place." I reached out and touched the dollhouse. The world dissolved. I am now within the dollhouse. I am with my family. The sale is still going on. We need more people for the house. Come visit us on Saturday. Everything must go.